Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And we at Reform fully endorse the government's action against the Houthis and thank our brave and brilliant military personnel. The Secretary of State referred to the continuing support of the Houthis by Iran, and so could he update the House on further sanctions against Iran? And surely now is the time to proscribe the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organisation.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman has been around long enough to know that I won't comment on the process for proscription of the Houthis. Suffice to say, the government has sanctioned a number of the major leaders of the Houthis, and I hope that he will take, and I welcome his welcome for the action we took last night, and I hope he will take that action as a sign of a determination to do what we can alongside our US allies to degrade their ability to continue to threaten freedom of navigation for international shipping.
Mr. Speaker, the Houthis are acting freely in an absence for a roadmap for peace. Yemen is facing the worst humanitarian crisis. 22 people need assistance, of which 11 million are children in desperate need of food, water and medical supplies. To defeat the Houthis permanently, will the Secretary of State give a commitment that his government will do all that is possible to deliver a roadmap for peace, along with allies, to make sure that this happens now? Otherwise, it will be a lost opportunity.
Mr. Speaker, I said to my honourable friend in the House earlier on, the responsibility I have as Defence Secretary is for the military component of a wider approach that must be pursued if we're going to be able to help play an important role in securing peace and a settling the civil war in Yemen and lifting the relief of those hundreds of thousands of Yemenis that are suffering so severely. Constraining the Houthis' threat is part of that. Reinforcing and bolstering the Yemeni government is also part of that, but then working with allies, particularly leading regional allies, in trying to force the pace of a negotiated settlement and a peace in Yemen is absolutely crucial.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the Secretary of State's statement and add my thanks and appreciation to the Royal Air Force and all those involved in this successful operation. Now, in his statement, the Defence Secretary said even Russia has attempted to support Houthi operations. But, Mr. Speaker, isn't it a little bit deeper than that, as the Wall Street Journal has reported that targeting data provided by Russia has been utilised by the Houthis for their attacks against Western shipping, while Iran has arbitrated secret talks between the terror group and the Kremlin. So what steps is the Secretary of State taking to disrupt Russia's deepening ties to Iran and its proxies across the Middle East?
Very good.
Mr. Speaker, I am really not going to disclose in public or even to this House the steps that we're taking to deal with some of that covert Russian activity that goes well beyond not just Yemen, but obviously the wider Middle East. But suffice to say, he's made a contribution to the discussion this afternoon on the statement by reporting the Wall Street Journal's report to the House.
Speaker, and I add my words of support for the actions the UK took last night. The Houthi group is a terrorist organisation that's been deeply destabilising, and it's right that we're playing our role in protecting freedom of navigation. At the same time, the Halesowen community of Yemenis are really concerned about the desperate humanitarian situation in Yemen. Could the Minister add a few more words on what we're doing to support Yemenis that are so desperate right now, and what we are doing to help end that civil war?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I mentioned the uplift in year that the Foreign Secretary gave to our contribution to the Yemeni humanitarian assistance plan. It makes us the third largest donor. Our focus for the aid has been especially on food, which is of a critical shortage and necessity to many hundreds of thousands of Yemenis, and we calculate that we will have helped almost 900,000 Yemenis with our food support this year. And our support then is also on healthcare, supporting over 700 medical centres across the country with medicines, vaccines, and some of the basic equipment needed to provide the healthcare that people also so desperately need in that country.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And may I share in my recognition of the RAF's role in last night's operation. But given the existing global commitments of our Typhoon squadrons, should the Coalition of the Willing provide a military contribution to any post-war force in Ukraine, and therefore a combat air patrol or air policing role in Ukraine, in addition to the Baltic and the High North? How will we continue to facilitate direct action, such as the strikes against the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen, with no plans to purchase a second tranche of F-35Bs?
Well, Mr. Speaker, on the matter of Ukraine and potentially a role of in the coalition of the willing and security guarantees, if the negotiated peace settlement can be put in place, which we all hope President Trump secures. We're planning at the moment. The sort of consequences of any commitments that we make will be fully explained to the House if a decision gets taken. But to say to him, this is contingent on a ceasefire, it is contingent on a peace agreement, and that is contingent principally on Putin to do what he says he wants, which is to see an end to the fighting there.
Alison, you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Defence Secretary for his statement and pay tribute to all those involved in this successful strike. Does he agree with me that this government will always put personnel at the heart of our defence plans?
For too long, Mr. Speaker, I believe the previous government overlooked that. They set and failed to meet their recruitment tests. And I'm proud to have been a Defence Secretary in a Labour government, able to give the Armed Forces personnel the largest pay increase last year for 20 years, and to be the first Defence Secretary who can stand at this dispatch box and say nobody in uniform will be paid less now than the national living wage. And I'm also proud, Mr. Speaker, to have managed to do a deal to buy back and bring into public control 36,000 family military homes, the consequence of which was quite the worst privatisation ever in 1996 under that previous Tory government.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In reply to an earlier question, the Secretary of State talked about the devastation in Yemen with 11 million people in desperate need of help and support and the civil war conditions that pertain there. This armed intervention that was made yesterday by Britain, I think we all need to know where it leads to, what the end game is in this. Are we involved in an internal war in Yemen? And what is the long-term implications of our involvement in this? Because ultimately there has to be some kind of peace process in Yemen, just as much as there has to be in Gaza and elsewhere within the region. Does this actually bring peace nearer, or does this actually exacerbate the danger of a widening conflict?
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Gentleman is right to remind the House of the extreme hardship of many Yemenis in what is a war-torn country and has been for years. The strikes last night were designed to reduce and prevent the risk of further Houthi attacks, and were done because we were able to take out an important weapons manufacturing facility that the Houthis had, manufacturing the very weapons that have been used to target international shipping and our own.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the Secretary of State's statement today, and I'd like to add my own thanks to our service personnel for their action. I'd also like to talk about the Houthis and what they've been doing alongside the other terrorist proxies in the Middle East, the Hamas and Hezbollah, who are controlled by Iran. Therefore, I would ask my right honourable friend, what is this country's policy in disrupting and containing this network and attacking the heart of it, namely Iran itself?
Thursday.
My honourable friend is right.